Okay, yeah, I was just going to tell you about a little bit about my dad now. Now, uh, when my mother and dad got married, my dad was an iceman. But then once they opened the brewery, I'll tell you some stories about how that happened too. He became a truck driver for the brewery. Well, that was a very good job in the Depression. Because now we're talking, he got that job in, it would have been either in 1933 or 1934.
Because you still needed alcohol, even more so in the Great Depression, right?
Well, what happened was the Volstead Act was repealed after Roosevelt became president. The Volstead Act was the prohibition.
Yeah.
Well, when they repealed the Volstead Act, then you could open the brewery, and that's when the Jeanette Brewery opened. And which was an interesting thing too, with the guy that opened it, Mr. Mattis. But anyhow, Mr. Mattis hired my father as a driver. Now the truck drivers at the brewery made what at that time was very good money. It was $1 an hour, and there was overtime. There was a lot of overtime. But back then, this is before you got time and a half for overtime. Overtime was straight time.
No,
So,
right.
But on the other hand, they didn't take anything out of your pay then. Whether Social Security had been passed by the time you got that job, and I'm not sure what year Social Security was passed, but if they did, you paid it separately, and they didn't. And at that time, the income tax only affected the very rich, so they didn't take anything out for income tax or anything. So whatever you made, that's what your check would say. And I can remember one time, I could not have been more than 3 years old, and we had gone to visit my grandparents, and we were all sitting around this big table, and my father was really proud that day. And I was always good with numbers. I understood numbers. I can't remember when I didn't understand numbers and couldn't do basic math and stuff. And he showed me this check for $100, and he was really proud of that. That meant that week he had worked 100 hours to make that.
Wow.
$100, yeah. And he was really, really proud. It's a short story, and most people wouldn't remember it, especially not when it happened when they were 3 years old. But I remember him showing me that check, and I remember how proud he looked.
Wow. So, just for reference, how much was $100 back during the Depression? That's
Look, most of the guys who worked say they had factory jobs, decent factory jobs. On straight time at the brewery, you were going to make $40 a week. The guys in the factory then would be making like 26, 28. $40 a week meant you were ahead of the curve. And when you're getting that kind of overtime, he was quite a bit ahead of the curve. And really, then when we bought our house in 1937, he paid that house off in about 3 years.
wow.
Of course, he bought the house for $3,200. But how many people can pay off their house in 3 years nowadays?
Hardly anybody.
That's right. Uh-huh.
That's
Yeah.
good. And during a time that was so, when everyone was so
Yeah,
impoverished
yeah.
and
Yeah. We did very well during the Depression. Not so much when I was first born. When he was an iceman. Everybody has refrigerators now. Well, back then, you had an ice box, and the iceman would come around and bring you ice. I don't know if it was every day or I don't know how often, but that's what he did. And in that job, not only didn't he make much, but the company that he worked for wasn't doing well, and the guy never would pay him his full wages. And my dad kept a book on that, and that book was still around. I don't know where it is now. My dad had a book on how much that guy owed him from the wages he didn't pay him.
Huh.
So at the time he married my mother, he had that job and wasn't making much at all. But once he got the job at the brewery, things got much better.
So I guess you could say beer saved our family.
Beer saved our family, yeah. Uh-huh.
Nice.